Hello again, everybody. This is Jason Powers. I'm just going to try to introduce an idea or a thought that I had. Actually, this was a couple of weeks ago. It's up here on the board. Um, I kind of look at it as a clock and year cycle that goes with most people's lives. So anyway, so you look at most people's lives and you start off from birth up to, I guess you'd call a quarter pass or 25 years. Um, and in that cycle here, you're working on your physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, and interpersonal abilities. Everybody seems to know this, but we all have different variations on how well we achieve those things. For example, a lot of times we're not going to achieve our physical well being as easily as we might find our emotional or spiritual well-being, as it pertains to what we're trying to do in life. I'm terrible at looking at the camera here, but point being is when you're looking at life um, in that regard, there's going to be people that are going to not get to 25 years old when the mental maturity of our brain has been achieved. The prefrontal cortex as routinely being cited as being fully developed by 25, which is why statistically, or at least from an actuarial science, um, that's when they allow you to get a rental car. Basically, because they believe that anyone under 25 is still not fully mature or has a problem with drinking and other behavioral things that would get in the way of them making actually a good risk assessment on you. So, that being said, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to fall on either side of that 25-year mark. There's people that mature very quickly, and by 22 years old, they got a full time job, they've got a degree, they're making money somewhere. And then there's other people that are 30 years old and they're still obviously, you know, struggling or living still with their parents or living in a very low status life. I, for example, can say that for a fact because um, I can say I was on both sides of that equation. So in 1996, I was 24 years old. I did get my first position out of college as an industrial engineer, and I spent about a year doing that. That being said, it didn't quite work out the way I would have liked it to. And by 1999, 2000, I wasn't any further along in my life than I was when I was in 1996, financially speaking. Um, so, and then by 30 years old, I'd made some very poor choices, and unfortunately, that resulted in numerous setbacks that I had to deal with, and basically put me back at square one. So, though I should have been able to achieve a lot by 24, 25 years old, or at least be heading in the right direction, or at least being on time, as it turned out, it took a lot longer than I would have expected to reach a level where I feel like I can make a video like this and talk about some things without feeling like I'm out of my element. Still working on the presentation part of it. So if we move forward, so by 30 or half, if you think about halfway on a clock or 30 years, you're supposed to be a done batch. As I just talked to, I wasn't where I needed to be, so I was late. But even though you're at that 30-year mark, you still have flaws. You are who you are. For better or for worse, you're going to have certain concepts and ideas that probably are never going to escape you for the rest of your life. And then there's going to be things that you're going to want to work on um, if you move forward at all. But essentially, whoever you're going to be in terms of how you approach life, and whether you've gotten up and whether you've failed or whether you've faced some adversity and decided to incorporate that in your life, is going to be paramount to whether you go any further after that. So between 30 and 45, It sounds like a long time, but uh, a lot of people are going to go through what I call the 5 R's. You're going to do a lot of reviewing, you're going to do a lot of retraining, repurposing, relaunching, and hopefully get some results. Sounds kind of, um, you know, kind of my own little version of self improvement, but the first thing you're probably going to do somewhere between here and there is a lot of reviewing. What is it that you're doing that you don't like to do? Um, what is it that you're involved in personally or spiritually, emotionally that's not doing you any good? So you're going to review and reflect on that. You're going to have to retrain yourself in some way, shape, or form. By then, by mid 30s, most people have held 3 or 4 major positions if they've held jobs at all of any substantial length, 2 to 4 years or 5 years maybe, and you're looking for a different position in life. A lot of people go back to school later on. Some people already are moving on to their senior level management position because they have 10 years experience. Others are just starting and they've gotten 3 or 4 years under the belt because they finished late. And now they've actually determined that this is what they want to do, but they need to retrain themselves in order to achieve the results that they finally think that they deserve or they can um, make in their life, hopefully. Repurpose. Well, repurposing, um, you have to find what it is that's going to drive you further because you're at that crossroads where from then on out, um, and this isn't trying to be mean to certain sexes, but by 35 or going on 40 for most women, um, your purpose isn't going to be making long-term commitments to family in terms of creating one. Generally speaking, by 35, you're probably at great risk to try to start a family at that point in time. And if you did, if you think about it nowadays, with most kids not get, like I said, the 25-year mark. Well, if you're 35 and your kid is 25, you'll be 60 years old when your kid actually becomes an adult. So that's assuming a lot of, that's going to be a lot of effort on your part. And if you're not where you need to be in terms of your financial positioning, that's going to be a pretty hard sell. And for guys, usually that's about the time when your first marriage comes under a lot of stress. Most people have been married for, at that point, somewhere between 5 and 10 years, if they're married at all, or if they've already been through a divorce. You're going to do a lot of reflecting. And when you say repurpose, who is it? Who are you? Who are you going to try to be from then on out? So, and then you go to the relaunch, which that's going to be based upon what drives you, what motivates you. And relaunching is more towards 45, I would say. I'd say this whole process here, that's 5 years. I think each one of those is 1 year because you can spend 18 months to 2 years trying to review what it is that you want out of your life. And retraining, that can take 2 to 3 years. So there's 5 years right there if they're back to back. And repurposing and relaunching is kind of a inline process as they would go along with it. And then results. So by 45, generally speaking, whatever results you're going to make on this world, in terms of how you're going to approach your later years, you pretty much have to be cemented in some way, shape, or form. Because between 45 and I put here 60 up here at the top, but it's not on here. I got a PowerPoint of this that I drew up. But from there, from 45 on, which you figure 45 is the halfway point in most people's lives. The average lifespan's around 80 years old, 77 to 85. So what do most people do in the last 20 years of their life? They're generally not working substantial hours. If they are, it's unfortunate, but it's part of life. Some people just can't retire because of financial difficulties they put themselves in and choices. We all do that. I'm not in no great shakes at this point, but there's something to be said for going forward from there. But what I'm trying to get to is here at this point in your life, from now on, from 45 on, you should be trying to train and build others, um, try to learn, live, and forgive, and also take joy in your mistakes, because by now you've finally figured out what it is that's going to make a difference in your life, um, which isn't always easy. And on the sides here, I got this on this side here. I have building you and education, and on this side is teach and give. You're going to do a lot of giving between when you become a fully a functional adult, which is always interesting, because I think a lot of times nowadays we think certain people aren't being adults about certain aspects of life. And I'm not going to make this political, but um, I think there's people that don't understand what being an adult is, and certainly don't know how to approach that. Um, that being said, I think there's uh, and you wouldn't be able to understand that from what I'm trying to say or how I'm trying to say it. But leaving that aside, I think the point here I'm trying to get at is these are all variables you're going to go through. Is the first 25 years of your life, you're just educating yourself. You're just trying to figure out what it is that you can be good at. And, some people have a great deal of skills in the mental area, and yet they're horrible with their physical problems, and then the physical problems will wind up biting them on the other side of this clock, and then they have to fix that, and vice versa. You can have people that have a lot of emotional problems because they were raised in a poor family environment at that younger age, and yet by the time they get to the other side, they've learned a lot from all those circumstances that they've gone through. And that doesn't mean that they're not, aware of where their flaws are. I mean, some people are. I can't say everybody is like that. There's some people that will never learn. They'll never try to reflect on anything. Um, they or they see other people who talk about reflection on it, and they think that they're somehow complaining about it, and that isn't really what they're doing at all. They're just getting it out of their system in some respects, and they're also sharing it because to them that's an important part of who they are. So I hope this video will be helpful. I'm going to post a link to the PowerPoint that I put together, or else a Google Doc. It's pretty simple. It's nothing too terribly hard, but it's better than my scratch up drawing here. But I'm going to erase this, and I got some other things to work on. So I wanted to go ahead and go through this. So I hope you enjoyed this video, and hopefully can make more in the future as we go. I'm going to try to start with at least one a month, and then maybe get down to one a week, but we'll see how it goes. Signing off for now, Jason Powers.